problem that JD Vance is about to have is he's in the middle of this like huge schism between the Republican Party, and you see Trump is not teetering his viewpoints at all. And he's actually almost like expanding the gap between the Republican Party. And so you would have to imagine that he has 3 years left of being the vice president, and he's got to try to like fit into this balance of like MAGA. And like we could just for like simpler terms like label the schism as like MAGA and like America First, because those I'm seeing as two separate. Because MAGA and America First is separate from MAGA, but some MAGA people probably consider themselves America First. But like those are kind of the two big schisms, and so he's got to find a way to be able to.
Okay, so like if you had porno pulled up.
Hold on. I'm setting up a bit for myself. 1 second. I'm setting up a bit here. Oh yes, this might be funny. Setting up a bit. Yes, this might be funny. Oh yes, this is gonna be funny.
Is there like a joke that goes with it?
Yeah, it's a joke. This might not be funny, but I'll set up a bit. Hold on, I'm getting my clip ready.
Okay.
Oh yes, okay.
This may be how we open the show.
All right, I'm ready. All right. I think I'm ready for my show. Are we gonna open with this?
I mean, do you want me to do like an intro and like lead into something?
What's our intro? Welcome to CapitolOffense. Are we gonna just restart like first episode?
Welcome back. No, I mean we've got episodes posted. I was just gonna be like, I was just gonna go like nothing's happened since we last recorded, like nothing at all.
Oh, okay. Welcome back to CapitolOffense.
Because you gotta think, there's so much. What?
I'm doing it. Welcome back to CapitolOffense. Here it is. We're back. Can you believe this? We're back.
Oh.
A lot's happened since then.
Can you believe that the last time we recorded, we had never heard of Zoran Mamdani, and Charlie Kirk was breathing.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of Zoran Mamdani, he won the mayoral race.
Oh no!
And there's new footage of New York City after Mamdani's win here. So I would like to show you this clip incoming from live, actually, from New York City. So let's
This is live?
This is the first day. Can you see my screen? Oh my god. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So this is
No.
This is New York City. This is, believe it or not, this is Times Square.
That's beautiful. That's exactly what I hoped for.
Oh, look, that's you.
Friends in New York. Yeah, that's me.
That's straight from New York City, I'm not gonna lie.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Where's that clip even from?
I don't know. It's called Burqa City, the movie, which sounds like a really good movie. And it sounds like
is it like a anti-Islam propaganda film?
I don't know. It was in another language. I could see the Burqa City movie. It might be a movie. I don't know. No, I think it was Iranian. It might be a movie we have to watch. It's definitely
Iranian. I can't,
It's definitely probably like a satire.
Read subtitles?
You could. You can read. But yeah, dude, he won, and Charlie Kirk was alive last time we did this, so lots changed.
Charlie Kirk is he might still be alive. I saw that he is alive and well.
No,
he's with the Taliban.
No, he's not.
He's with the Taliban in Afghanistan. Yes.
Well, I think he's probably reincarnated into JD Vance because apparently they've been going a little too close from reports that I hear.
His wife?
Yeah. You see the picture with the... Well, I actually don't know if it's Photoshop.
Yeah.
Is that real where he is under?
Photoshop.
Okay, dude, I was gonna say.
No, yeah, that's Photoshop, dog. That's Photoshop.
Where his hands like underneath. Oh man, let's pull that picture out. Hold on.
Tell me that wouldn't make sense though. Pull that picture up. Tell me that wouldn't make sense though. That like JD Vance has an Indian wife. People make fun of him for having an Indian wife.
Oh, dude, I did see that clip. That was weird.
Yeah. And then suddenly, he's got a little white wife.
That was weird, dude. Hold on, my keyboard keeps kind of in and out, but it's alright.
Nice.
Okay, I can't find the. Can't find the picture.
Nice.
So
Nice.
we won't see that. But
I think we've all seen it.
yeah. Well, either way, dude, it's a crazy picture, and I can't believe that was not real.
It is a wild picture. It is a wild. What, you can't believe it wasn't real?
Yeah. Okay, but can we? Here's the problem. As I think JD Vance is starting to go through Indian fatigue, which, I mean, yeah, and it's his wife. That's the problem, and he has children with his wife, and he wants a white Christian lady, and he's 2 kids deep with this Indian Hindu lady, and so that's kind of problematic.
Well, you know, a lot of the Catholics call him a fake Catholic because his wife doesn't practice Catholicism.
That's a good point. I did see he was going to Turkey with the Pope,
but his wife doesn't.
I doubt. I really highly doubt that. He's going to Turkey with the Pope. Yeah, he is going to a city called Izmir, and he's going to go with the Pope. I don't know what they're doing. But let's look this up. Turkey. Maybe I made that up because, you know, sometimes
I haven't heard that.
Except sometimes fake news gets to the better. But I'm pretty sure I saw this on Instagram, so it has to be true.
Right.
Yes, JD Vance plans to join Pope Leo's visit to Turkey's Iznik, I guess it's called. It's a church ceremony on the 28th. So that's nice.
Got it. That's beautiful. I'm very happy. So really what that headline is 2 Americans are visiting a city in Turkey.
Yes. The vice president Catholic would attend a Christian ceremony on the 20th of November, but the trip has yet to be finalized. This is what's making news, I guess, nowadays. Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, that's beautiful. That's beautiful, and you know, that's maybe a little bit of good news.
Yeah, we need a little Catholicism. We need a little bit of what I personally would like,
especially in the Holy Land, which is Turkey.
Yes, and personally, what I would like is a resurgence of the Byzantine Empire to spice everything that's happening up. And so if he's there,
they weren't even Catholic.
They were what? Orthodox? Eastern Orthodox?
Orthodox.
Yeah. Okay, but Orthodox and Catholicism is the same thing. Let's be real.
No, it's not the same thing.
Let's be real.
It's not the same thing. There were wars fought over that.
Let's be real, bruh. Nah, dude, let's be real. It's
not the same thing. I couldn't tell you what the differences are, but it's not the same thing.
Well, also, experts are saying that Pope Leo's visit could establish Iznik as a major center for Christian pilgrimage. These are what experts are saying.
Is that real? Is that a quote that you just read?
From this article, yes.
What experts are saying that?
I don't know what the site is.
What's the site?
I just said I don't know. Oh, it's great. That's a good question.
What, you can't read the URL?
It doesn't say what the site is. It just says the city. Let's see.
It's www.com. There's no URL?
No, there is a URL. Hold on. Wait. This could be just a... Oh, God.
How hard is it to read the URL of the website?
Okay, so apparently there's just a Christian thing there. If that wasn't apparent. Anyways. Awesome. Yeah, anyways.
That's awesome. What did you think about the Tucker Carlson Nick Fuentes podcast?
You know, I thought it was I think it's a big step for the Republican division that's happening. A big step in the division. It's becoming a lot more. Because in the podcast they made a good point and we talked about this briefly. They made a good point where it was who is the future of the Republican Party? They mentioned Ted Cruz or Randy Fine. And truth be told, there is no clear path after Donald Trump. Besides JD Vance, which even that is still I don't know if he's getting the support that he needs. I know that a lot of people, I'm sure the establishment Republicans want him to be the guy, but I don't think he's going to be popular amongst the actual Republican voters. Because we're seeing that tide change. Yeah.
Because I think that amongst the older MAGA demographic, kind of that stereotypical demographic, I do think he will be popular. I don't think young people buy him as the leader of the future of the party as much as they were willing to buy into Trump. He's not as strong of a character as Trump is. Trump, it's very similar to what you see, and this isn't me calling Trump a dictator, but it's very similar to what you see in, like,
the characteristics are the same.
Absolute control.
Yeah.
Whenever somebody has absolute control over something, and they command that respect, and very suddenly, whenever they're gone, not saying Trump is going to die, but like after he leaves office, there's a division of power, and there's all sorts of different factions that want to fill the void that's left by such a character like Trump. And so I'm not sure that there's a lot of those sections of Republicans, whether you're like anti-war or like MAGA or like MAGA, true America first, like anti-Israel MAGA, like in that section, or like you're on the Ben Shapiro side where it's just like pro-Israel totally. I'm not sure that there's enough of those sections that actually can get behind JD Vance right now. And I would say that there's not a clear person that I think is a favorite to get all of those sections behind them. So I think it's going to be very interesting in the midterms and beyond to see what dynamic of the party actually takes control, what side wins the argument. And I think right now it's pretty obvious that the side winning the argument is the one that is actually America first, is anti-war, anti-foreign aid, and once the end of all of these entanglements, and wants to actually focus on America. And so I think that that's promising, but there's still a large divide that needs to be welded if they want to have any success in the midterms and beyond.
I think you're seeing a sort of a similar situation between Kamala and Biden, where Kamala failed is she couldn't separate herself away from Biden. Like if everybody talks about after it was announced that Biden wasn't going to be running anymore, everybody talks about Kamala being like, I would do nothing wrong. And so JD, or not nothing wrong, I would do nothing different from Biden. So JD Vance is finding himself in a very similar space with Trump. If JD Vance in the future cannot disassociate himself with Trump and the things that Trump has done, he's going to be in a lot of trouble to try to regain the trust and the support of the broader Republican Party. So he's in that like frame of he doesn't know he doesn't know whether to stick by the MAGA principles and stick by those principles, or to separate himself from Trump, because Trump's approval ratings among his voters are plummeting. And so you saw the same thing with Biden. Biden was becoming widely unpopular even among his circle. And Kamala couldn't separate herself for some reason from that, and that was a major part of why she lost. And JD Vance might end up going through the same thing if he can't separate himself between the like pro-Zionist, between the like pro-foreign aid, and for some reason we're sending billions to Argentina, and cutting the snaps, which is not even a popular thing amongst the Republicans.
Right. And that's a good point, and there are definitely similarities between those two situations. I think, for what it's worth, I think JD Vance is in a very obviously he's in a very peculiar situation, but he's also a unique character in the fact that I think he's one of the very, very few that could actually go both ways. I think the anti-war right, if he embraced that platform, would embrace him still. I don't think he's alienated himself enough from either side to be ousted by either side. It's not like, right now Tucker, if Tucker were to run, he would not be supported by the pro-Zionists. He would not be supported by...
Yeah, he's alienated from one huge side.
Exactly. And in the same vein, like, if somebody like Marco Rubio ran, who is obviously very pro-intervention, pro-foreign aid, pro-regime change, the non-interventionist side of the party would not embrace him. Like, even if he tried to pander down to that, it would be a total denial of that. And so I think JD Vance is maybe the only character that has a chance of being the nominee that still has a decision to make. And it's going to be a tough decision because he's going to be the sitting vice president whenever, at some point, whether he's going to have to say, I am going to continue the policy of Donald Trump, which is what we've seen, which has been, quite frankly, a disaster. Or he's going to say, I am going to take this counter position in the party and I'm going to try to charge this base, and this is going to be my base. And that is going to be very interesting because a lot of people are going to see that, and probably including the president himself, as a betrayal of that like inner circle, that elite circle. And he, I don't know how that's going to work. Trump does not like to be backstabbed, and it's going to be, I think a lot, if that situation comes true, if that's what happens and he goes with the non-interventionist side, I think a lot of like neocons and like pro-Zionist, like pro-Gaza war people are going to say like, look, this guy's been shifty the whole time. Like at the very beginning, he was a never Trump Republican. Like he said Trump was the next Hitler, and then suddenly to win office, he changes up and starts supporting Trump, and then he becomes the vice president. One thing that you can't deny JD Vance is his rise politically has been so fast. He got fast-tracked.
And I think
he was only a senator for 2 years. I think he got elected in Ohio and then was only a senator for 2 years and is then vice president. And so it's I can't imagine how much stress he's under. I wonder too, just because of how like the Don takes stress, like he doesn't seem to really age. And like the stress doesn't seem to bug him. I wonder if JD Vance is the most stressed man in the country, and he's like really not even having to make these decisions. Because this infighting is crazy.
Because he also is running into this issue where, listen, the whole talk about Trump running a third, Trump's not coming back after this election. Like he's not going to be reelected.
He's already said that. He's already said he's done.
Yeah, so regardless of like the rumors or whatever, he's not going. And so the problem that JD Vance is about to have is he's in the middle of this like huge schism between the Republican Party, and you see Trump is not teetering his viewpoints at all. And he's actually almost like expanding the gap between the Republican Party. And so you would have to imagine that he has 3 years left of being the vice president, and he's got to try to like fit into this balance of like MAGA, and like we could just for like simpler terms like label the schism as like MAGA and like America First, because those I'm seeing as two separate. Because MAGA and America First is separate from MAGA, but some MAGA people probably consider themselves America First. But like those are kind of the two big schisms, and so he's got to find a way to be able to like
right.
You take a Republican 10 years ago and you couldn't like imagine some of the questions be like, one of the questions was like about Israel, and like some guy was like, oh, they are committing ethnic cleansing in Gaza, and then he went on to something else. Like that's crazy that the youth now is starting to ask these questions on the Republican side when that wasn't the case before this election or before this presidency. So he's got like he's got a tough like gap to bridge.
Position.
Yeah, he's got a tough gap to bridge. It actually might be one of the biggest.
I think the whole like the only way out for him, and I mean, assuming that these are his convictions, because obviously I want him to do whatever his convictions are. I want him to show his true colors, and now I get he's a politician
right.
And they're wishy-washy, but always I try to go at it from the standpoint of he's going to be honest. And so if his convictions truly are, like deep down, the reason he didn't support Trump initially is because he thought he was an authoritarian, he thought he was overstepping, he thought he was, too big of a big government guy, whatever. JD Vance has a real opportunity. He's a young guy. He's a very young guy. The base on the America First side is extremely youthful, and it's energized. In a way, it's very similar to the Bernie Sanders support in 2016. How it's just a young, like, it's very grassroots. This was not, there's no donors to this side of the base. It's just
It's like social media.
Total rejection. Right. It's social media. It's a total rejection of propaganda that's been fed to us. And it's the same propaganda that was effective on our parents. The problem is the country's in a worse spot now. And so the propaganda doesn't work. It's easier for the pro-intervention, pro-war, pro-regime change side to work when Americans can afford housing, when they can afford food, when they can afford, a vacation once a year, when everything's not so expensive. Once those things get so expensive, it's really hard to ignore the billions and, trillions at this point that they've spent in foreign entanglements around the world over the last 25 years. That's why this generation now is saying, because we all grew up in the 2008 recession. And the economy, you can say, well, the stock market's high and, all these different economic things. The economy has not improved from that point. The economy has only gotten worse since that point. Yes, there have been record stock market highs. That does not affect the average American at all. And so I think if JD Vance, rounding back to my point, if JD Vance is truly America first, and this is really what he wants, if he wants to be president and he really wants America first policies, if he, as a young guy, is able to get out there and energize this base, which is young people that are interested in supporting these policies, he really has a great shot of being an easy two-term president and really has a good shot of making real change.
He needs
in the same way that Trump could have made real change.
He does. There's going to be maybe it's too early for him at this point, but there's going to be a point in the next 3 years where he does have to make some hard stances on policies that Trump made against. If he's gonna want a lot of confidence going in to 2028, he's gonna have to reject this whole Israel, we need to back them and fund them at all costs thing. He's got to. He can't. It's not enough anymore to say that Israel's our greatest ally and blah blah. That talk is done, and so he's gonna have to come up hard against it. Otherwise, they're gonna see who. You got Mamdani in the elections a couple days ago was the scary indicator for Republicans. It's not looking great going into the midterm. And Vivek, out of all people, Vivek was the only Republican I saw on Twitter that came down to the fundamentals, which was we need to focus on affordability, which is general for all this Israel, all this foreign aid, all this ICE stuff doesn't matter. We need to focus on the affordability, and we need to stop the identity politics, which the identity politics on the right has gotten insane. It's like leftist levels from 2016.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's my biggest problem is it's so hypocritical. That's what drives me crazy. Is because this is
it's annoying.
It's woke identity politics. It's what we saw in 2020. It's what we saw in 2016. It's what we saw pre-COVID. It's what we saw a little bit post-COVID. And we started to come out of that world. And then now it's just back.
It's so bad.
Totally swung the opposite way. And here's the deal. The same people that were crying whenever it was happening the first time are now doing it. And they're the same people that are going to be crying in 2 to 4 years whenever it's happening to them again. So the only solution to it is just to stop the identity politics. It's insane that we are still sitting here in this year and we can't argue policy of a socialist mayor of New York City. We can't figure out how to argue the policy. So we just call him
identity. Yeah, identity.
It's wild. It's wild. He speaks. He doesn't even have an accent. He does. I don't understand. He's a very handsome guy. He doesn't look like Osama bin Laden.
No,
he doesn't.
Well, Osama was pretty good looking good too. And another thing with, and this, okay, and so this this is where people like Tucker Carlson start to make a lot more sense for people. This is where Nick Fuentes will never be president level just because because he's identity politics as well. Maybe not like extreme, but he's definitely like a nationalist, and he definitely
he's
embraces
a
a lot of
racialist.
Yeah, he definitely like embraces a lot of identity politics. But this is where people like Tucker Carlson come in, because Tucker Carlson is actually very moderate when it comes to a lot of these problems. Like I could see Democrats vote for Tucker Carlson, and that's really where you're gonna win, is if you can get the other side with you. JD Vance, maybe, I don't know. Like I said, he would have to distance himself. I think a lot of
Tucker's problems are gonna come from his past being on Fox News and a lot of his stances he had then. He's very much changed ever since he left Fox News. His opinions have evolved. He has realized that a lot of the propaganda that he was fed in the just media machine was incorrect. And so I think that's going to be really hard for people that aren't super locked in on this. The average American who just isn't paying attention day to day is not going to understand that Tucker Carlson's policies have evolved beyond the just like MAGA spew that he was spewing on Fox News every night.
I think eventually
so that's going to be something that's hard to overcome. No, eventually for sure, but to win a primary, that's the problem. There's a lot of ammunition there. That
I think he'd get the Bernie treatment.
Another America First. I think that's possible. I think that's definitely a good point. I think that he would want to change so much that it would definitely rock the boat, and it's honestly in some ways a lot more of like a change than what Trump even introduced in 2016. It's a different change.
Yeah.
Where Trump wasn't a politician. This would be like shaking the roots of Republican foreign policy and kind of a lot of these people in Congress and like their donors and their donors' interests. It would be shaking a lot of that up if he were to become the nominee, and especially in a climate like today. I mean, it would be great, but I'm sure that he wouldn't be fearful for his own safety. I would be fearful for his own safety.
If I was Tucker, I'd be insane.
Yeah. But I mean, ultimately, if you really want to make change, you can't be focused on that. You just gotta go do it. And the more and more I listen to him, the more and more it seems like he wants to run. I don't know if he will. He's got plenty of time to figure it out.
The thing is, I truly don't have confidence that he'll win the nominee. He doesn't have the supporters that he needs. He doesn't have the donors. He doesn't have the billionaires. He doesn't have the establishment, which, I mean, like, those people kind of decide the nominee. Like,
right.
JD Vance has those people. As long as he doesn't teeter to one side, like, JD Vance has the donors.
And this goes back to your point. This goes back to your point because it's very similar to Bernie. These are all the exact same things that were
it's
Bernie.
It's a exact repeat.
Yeah. He's anti-establishment, doesn't have the donor base, but the one thing that Tucker does have is this grassroots young movement behind him. And we learned a lot from Bernie. And even Republican voters and people that are more right-leaning learned a lot from Bernie. Because Bernie is the rightful Democratic nominee from 2016. He was cheated.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And, it doesn't take, say what you will about Bernie Sanders, he tends to, in situations when it comes down to his own stances versus the stances of the Democratic establishment, he tends to bend the knee to the Democratic establishment. So in that situation, he gets up there and he holds up Hillary Clinton's hand and says that she's the rightful nominee. It ended up not mattering because she ended up not even beating Trump. That was his excuse, is that we have to unify to beat Trump. I'm not convinced that a lot of those young Bernie voters even went out and voted that year.
No, I don't think so either.
Because they were so disheartened. I don't think Tucker would do that. I don't think he would go up on stage and hold up. If JD Vance embraces this like pro-intervention MAGA side, this side that Trump's on right now, and Tucker is the representative of this for America First side, I don't think Tucker would get up there and hold his hand up. So what that would mean is that there would be a major rift in the Republican Party, and we would see basically a repeat of 2016 just flip-flopped, and whoever the Democratic nominee is, whether that's AOC or Gavin Newsom or, whoever, all of these other options that it could be, would just pretty easily slide in. It would be like Taft versus Roosevelt allowing Woodrow Wilson, the just awful human being, to get into office and ruin the country for the time that he was serving. So
one thing that is different between Bernie and Tucker that I think Tucker has on his side is Tucker Carlson is getting the attention very, very early. Bernie Sanders got his attention during when it was already kind of decided. Tucker Carlson,
during the campaign.
Right. You have 3 years until somebody can run again. A lot of Tucker's young supporters will be voter age by that time. I mean, it's 18? You've got people maybe 15, 14, 16 listening to him. You've got people 17, 18 right now listening to him. They're only going to get older, and he's only going to grow until he starts to start to campaign. So that's kind of the difference. It's where, this is where it kind of gets a little bit more dangerous for the Republicans than Bernie was to the Democrats. It's because he was able to get the attention a lot earlier. And the current administration's approval ratings between its own voters is also going down. And it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be crazy.
It's gonna be very interesting, and it it's something that is so unique that I don't think we've seen. I mean, I can't. The Republican Party has been so unified since the 1980s with Ronald Reagan, and Reagan was a real unifier, and it lasted. I mean, clearly we're seeing 40-ish years into now. And now you could say that when Trump came in, he really caused a rift, but has the policy of Donald Trump differed that much from Republicans that preceded him in the last, since the 2000s, or even the Reagan policy? No, not really. Some of it's been different, but that it's not anything substantial. This is a rift in a way that honestly could blow up into a situation of another party.
That's another point.
Serious.
And
it's that serious.
I say this every election as a joke. I'm just the third party has a big chance. But every election cycle, the chance increases and increases and increases, because the two choices you get left with. I've been through 2 elections where I could vote. I was in the Biden and Trump and this previous election. And both elections, I can't remember where I talked to most people and they were like, oh yeah, I'm for sure going for this. Everybody I kind of met was not really for either or.
Right.
I'm just voting for the lessers of two evils. That's what it felt like with Biden and Trump. That's what it felt like again with Kamala and Trump, where it's two people. It's where most people don't believe in either or. They're just trying to see what would be the best option out of the worst options.
Right.
And that could change with Vance maybe, or with Tucker, but it might introduce a third party. Because, by the way, there's a whole other side of the Democrat Party. If they're in shambles, who the frick is going to be the face of the Democrat Party? Not Gavin Newsom.
Right.
Right.
Which I think, and it does. There definitely does seem to be a rift, and remember that thought. I apologize for interrupting, but there definitely does seem to be a rift in the.
It's the same rift.
Socialist side of that party versus the establishment. Yes,
it's the same rift.
We've just seen it in New York. New York was a battleground.
Oh, that's
Cuomo,
true.
Who is a very establishment Democrat.
That's true.
Is a very establishment Democrat and won a lot of support. He got a lot of that vote, but Mamdani is the young socialist who goes in there and wins. And now, don't get me wrong, that's New York. There are definitely, capital D Democrat blue states that would not vote for a socialist like president, but like candidate. Like I'm thinking like Colorado probably like wouldn't go and vote for a socialist. Like New Mexico probably wouldn't go and vote for a socialist. These are Democrat states that aren't going to vote for a socialist. Big states like California,
yeah, I was gonna say,
easily vote for a socialist. New York would easily vote for a socialist. So you do see somewhat of a rift. I would say that development isn't far enough along, and right now they're having good feelings because they just swept this last little election, this little off year election deal. You know, winning in Virginia and winning, you know, the New York mayor race and winning all these little elections around.
How was the event?
it was good.
What'd you do?
That was just a class.
I know. I forgot.
All right, sorry, Mossad.
That was Mossad?
Yeah. All right. What were you talking about?
Oh my god. Okay, so I was talking about how I was just making the final point that the Democrats here I'll do
Or gay or something.
Welcome back. I was just, before we had to take a little quick break there, I was just making the final point that the Democrats right now may not be feeling their internal rift nearly as bad right now because of the good feelings that they're feeling in the elections that they just won, and so eventually that'll wear off over the course of the next year, and we may start to see that rift. But I don't think that rift in the Democratic Party is as far along as the Republican one is.
No, but it's going to be two of the same thing. So where the rift is going to be between the establishment, the status quo, and it's going to be for right and left, where both sides are going to have one side that's anti-establishment, anti-status quo. They want to change, and the other side is just going to be status quo, the establishment, this and that. And so you're going to see that both sides. And it was a good point of bringing up New York, because that was sort of like not a small representation, because New York City's huge, but like it was sort of this like small on a country scale representation of the division that the Democrats are about to go through, and the Republicans are about to go through as well.
Right.
Because you have one guy who's speaking to the people, and you have one guy, whether you think he believes, I think he does believe what he says, but whether you think he doesn't or does, he spoke to the people. He spoke to the issues of the people.
Right.
And that's why he won. And so you're going to see a lot more than that. And either Democrats have to steal his strategy, or they're going to just lose to whoever the Republican is. Yeah. Or on the other side, same thing.
Right. And I think you bring up an important point there, where a lot of it is just the establishment isn't genuine. And when you get somebody like Mamdani or Tucker Carlson or even like a Nick Fuentes, whether you like or support his policy, in the same way with Mamdani, whether you like or support his policy, they're genuine and they're speaking to the people and they're addressing issues. I personally don't think Mamdani's policy is sound. I don't think it'll work. I don't think it's economically sensible at all. But you cannot deny that there's no other candidate in that mayoral race that's sitting there saying, we need to figure out these issues for New Yorkers. He's the only one that stood up on that stage and said, I'm not going to go visit another country. I'm not going to go visit, specifically Israel is what they were talking about, but regardless, he's the only one that said, I'm going to sit here with my people in this city and we're going to figure out their problems together. And if there's anybody in the Jewish community that wants to meet with me, I'm here in New York City, and I'm willing to meet with all citizens of New York City that are willing to talk. And so there's definitely something to be said about that, where you can't be shocked all of a sudden when people are voting for this guy who is talking directly to the people. And it's the same way with some of these people on the Republican side. Ultimately, what's going to win the day is people who don't lie and are genuine. And like I was saying, I don't think his policy will work, but I think he's going to try it. And I think that he thinks it's going to work, and I think that he wants it to work, if that makes sense. And so, you know, this whole, like Cuomo is the perfect representation of it too. This slimy, nasty politician that's so wishy-washy. I don't know if he does or doesn't, but a lot of people were saying he doesn't even live in New York City. I'm sure he's got a residence there. I don't know how else he could run for mayor, but like somebody that just doesn't understand the needs of the people, somebody that just is going to get the job and then just sit in the high castle and just dictate orders down to the people below. That's not going to work anymore. And ultimately, that's not going to win the argument. It's the politicians that are going to succeed are people that are genuine and that speak to the needs of the people. That's going to be the baseline. Then you can start arguing policy. But that's the rift right now in both sides, Democrat and Republican, that are going to have to be fought. And for the sake of both parties, you should hope, as an American, as an average American, you should hope that the sides that speak directly to the people and are genuine are the ones that win on both sides. Because that's ultimately how we get back to just talking about the issues and forgetting this identity politics stuff and, start getting politicians that actually represent the, majority of Americans.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, in 2028, I mean, it's really like it's anybody's game. Like I think going into 2024, 2025, it was a clear, like if you weren't stuck to your side, you could clearly tell that the Democrats didn't have it anymore. Where 2028, it's like doors wide open. And so, I mean, this is, and one thing I think the Democrats are going to do way better than the Republicans is Democrats are going to be able to be more accepting of the other side than the Republicans are going to be of the Democrats. And that's one thing that I think the Democrats have an advantage of. Because they don't, I feel like recently when the Democrats are doing this like Republican versus Democrat thing is only when it's really in response to a Republican do it or when Trump is like doing it. Because Trump and Vance are kind of, I guess in my view, kind of look like they're only the Republican presidents and vice president, not like the countries. Like,
right.
When they're being
unifiers.
Yeah, when they're being criticized, they're really only listening to their party's criticism, and not like a whole other side. I think that's where the Democrats are probably gonna, because if a Democrat can get a guy like Tucker, because Tucker could easily be a Democrat, and in the sense of not his policies, but in the sense of like his mannerisms, how he talks. It's because I think Democrats have always been the more charismatic, like, more accepting people.
Well, that's what I was going to say. That's typically, that's the historical trend is that Republicans, I mean, before Trump kind of got a younger coalition into the Republican Party, like in 2008 when John McCain ran against Obama, this is the greatest representation of it, or even in 2012, but 2008 is the best one. John McCain is this old white guy that's, kind of, I mean, no matter how you feel about John McCain, like seemingly pro-free market, seemingly pro-military, right? Like, which the pro-military side of that, I would kind of argue that maybe he wasn't the most free market guy. But, and then you've got Barack Obama, a young Barack Obama, who is young, charismatic, got a lot of energy. And that's the best representation of it, is that the Republicans have always kind of been seen as like a little bit slower and a little bit more methodical, which this is where the donkey and the elephant come from that represent the parties, is that the donkey's a little bit faster and can kind of carry a lot of weight, but the elephant is slower and more methodical but can also carry the weight. So that's historically what we've seen, and I don't think that'll change. It's just they're just, both positions are going to have to evolve into this new landscape that we're entering into. And I think the one thing that both parties are eventually going to agree on, because truthfully, what I foresee at this point, and this is me making a prediction in November of 2025. This is 3 years before, just a little bit under 3 years before the next presidential election. What I foresee is that the younger versions of these parties are going to win, because they both want to continue to hold power, right? So they're going to go with where the voter base is going and where the voter base is youngest, because they want to continue to hold power in the same way that they did that with our parents and their parents and their parents' parents, right? What they're, there's just going to have to be that transition. And I think once they pivot to that is kind of when we'll start seeing maybe a little bit more arguments on policy. But I would suspect over the next especially year, but after the midterms, maybe there will be a little bit of a break in the midterms, but this year, the rest of this year, and then maybe up until March or April, a little bit of a break until the midterms, and then after the midterms, and then obviously the break in the primaries and presidential election, we're going to see like really, really hardcore, not actual civil wars, but civil wars in the parties. And fights for power within the parties, and
it's gonna be pretty insane.
It's gonna be pretty insane, and I think if there's a party that sticks to the roots, to the establishment, that party is going to cease to exist.
Yeah, and you're seeing the emergence of like America's first on both sides. It's like America first, but through a Democratic lens or a Democrat lens. And then on the other side, you're seeing this America first through the Republican lens, where you're coming back to where both parties agreed. Because, I wasn't alive, but it looked like back then there was enough respect on both sides of the party where it's like, hey, we both care about America. And this may be actualized differently, but I'm just saying, like, through a visual standpoint, it looked like both parties agreed and respect each other enough to where they think that they're coming at it an America First perspective, but just on different policies. I think you're kind of seeing a resurgence of that, where it's no longer this, it's no longer this, fight. And if the Democrats win, they're going to destroy America. Or, if the Republicans win, they're going to destroy America. I think it's coming back to where both people on both sides will look at the other side of trying to enhance the goals of America first. Right. And
it's just different ways of getting to that end.
Yeah, and I hope that's where we're going.
Well, I think that's the policy that we saw pre-Cold War, before the military-industrial complex and all of that. It was very much the parties were always invested in America first, and it was always for the betterment of Americans. And once the Cold War kicked off, we saw our position in the world as being challenged, and so we went to fight all the communists everywhere in the world. Then, once the Cold War ends, we already have this military buildup, and a lot of the people in power are making so much money that they don't feel like they can put this cat back in the bag. Like, they want to keep this machine printing money, and so then we get involved in all of these other foreign entanglements, and we find ourselves here. If we do truly get, and whenever I say this, I don't mean progressive in the sense of, how people assume, whenever you think of progressive. I'm just saying, I think it's very likely that the progressive side of both parties, which is just they're progressing the ideology, they're becoming more pro-America, America first. I think the more progressive sides of each party are going to win, and we're hopefully going to get back to just being able to say, okay, the options you have are, the Republicans are going to do this, and the Democrats are going to do this, and this is the policy for Americans, and here is how it's going to affect you. You pick, but ultimately the end goal for both parties is exactly the same. And, that's when the country is at its best, and that's when a lot of this racialism and just division that they try to sow at the top goes away, because a lot of the issues that they're trying to distract you from aren't there anymore. So there's no reason to make all, there's no reason for the people at the top to be like, oh, this place is letting trans kids on their sports team, or this place is letting a Muslim win the mayor or whatever. Because ultimately, all the American people feel like we're unified going towards a good thing, and the parties don't feel threatened by that. So they don't feel a need to divide us. And so I think ultimately that can only be a good thing.
Yeah, well, I gotta wrap it up, and I think that was a good place to end it.
Okay.
So we'll see if America is even intact.
We'll see. We'll see where we're at. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.
Yes,
this has been the Capital Offense podcast. Once again, I am Will Schatz. That is Amir Alvik, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.